I'm Korean teacher Hyunok-jang.
And I'm Gerhard. I'm learning Korean. In this lesson, we will learn about irregular Korean verbs and adjectives that end in
받침 드.
Batchim de. When these irregular verbs and adjectives meet a vowel, Batchim de changes to
르.
de. Just like with most Korean irregular verbs and adjectives, this rule applies only to specific irregular words, so you will need to learn which words are affected.
Let's look at some examples. 듣다.
듣다, to listen, the Korean verb to listen. Yes?
게르하드는 노래도 듣고 드라마도 봐요.
Ends in Batchim
드.
de. And is irregular.
Yes.
Let's conjugate 듣다 into the present tense.
아요 or 어요.
아요 or 어요. Like every time we conjugate something, we remove 다.
다. And
We look at the last vowel.
vowel.
Last vowel is
으.
It's not a, it's not o.
So 듣 어요.
어요.
But
The rule we just learned says that the is removed or rather replaced by the
르. Yes. Because of the vowel.
because of the vowel. Because the meets a vowel,
들어요.
들어요. And that's all there is to today's rule.
Yes.
Today's rule for irregular verbs with Batchim
드.
de.
들어요.
들어요. Now let's look at another grammar structure that actually works exactly the same. How about imperative? How about listen?
The imperative is 으세요 or 세요. 으세요 or 세요.
으세요 or 세요. And it's 으세요 when there is a Batchim, yes?
Yes.
We have a Batchim, Batchim de.
드.
But because we have Batchim de, de meets a vowel, vowel e.
So 듣 has a 받침. So 으세요.
So de, our Batchim de meets a vowel,
Vowel.
e.
So 드 becomes
르.
르. So 들으세요.
들으세요. And here the liaison rule applies. Or
Yes.
들으세요.
세요. This one is also
Ah, right.
applies.
들어요.
네, 들어요. 들으세요.
들으세요. And if we attach a grammar structure to this verb stem that doesn't have a vowel, it just remains de
드.
and is conjugated as usual.
Yes.
So the rule is if de meets a vowel,
Then 드 becomes 르.
Now let's look at a few more words in the table. So here we have 5 more verbs.
받다.
받다, to get something.
닫다.
닫다, to close.
듣다.
To hear.
걷다.
To walk.
묻다.
To ask. The first 2 words in this table, 받다 and 닫다, are regular verbs that end in Batchim de. The others are irregular. We will now apply all these different grammar structures and compare how they are conjugated. How about 받다?
받다. We remove the 다 first, right? And the last vowel is
Ah.
Then we add 아요.
It's a or o. We add 아요.
네. So 아요. That's it.
받아요.
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 받아요. And in the past tense?
받았어요.
Yes. 받았어요.
왔어요 and not 왔어요 because again the last vowel is a or o, a in this case. So we add 왔어요 and not 왔어요.
Because 받다 is regular.
받다 is regular. 지윤 씨,
네? 우와! 초콜릿을 받았어요. So 받아요, 받았어요, and with go, it's not vowel, it's consonant. Then 받고,
받고,
받지만, and with 아서
받았어,
받아서.
받았어.
네, 받아서.
받았어.
받다 has a 받침. So we add 으세요. 받으세요.
So 받침 드, that's why 으세요 and not 세요, 받으세요. And then 닫다 to close works exactly the same.
Same. It's
right?
also regular verb.
Regular verb.
So 닫다, 닫아요.
닫아요,
닫았어요.
닫았어요,
닫고,
닫고,
닫지만,
닫지만,
닫아서,
닫았어,
닫으세요.
닫으세요. Gets conjugated exactly the same as the previous one.
Yes.
And now let's look at the 3 irregular verbs. So 듣다 first. 듣다, to listen or to hear. We already discussed before as an example, but now we will put it into other tenses as well, other grammatical structures.
Yes. So 듣다, 들어요.
들어요, as we said before, the 드 gets replaced by 르, and we add 어요 because of because it's not a or 오.
오. So 듣다, 들어요.
들어요.
Then in the past tense, 들어요, 들었어요.
들었어요. So exactly the same principle. We change the 드 for the 르, and we add, instead of 왔어요, we add 왔어요 because it's not a or 오.
And with go, the 받침 드 remains.
Remains 받침 드 because it doesn't meet a vowel. The 드 only gets exchanged for the 르 if it meets a vowel.
Yes. So 듣고,
듣고,
and also this is also same. 듣지만.
듣지만.
This is also G is also consonant. So 듣지만. And with 아서 this is a vowel. So 들어서.
들어서. Again, we add also because of is not a or o, and we change the 드 for the 르 because it meets vowel 어.
들어서. And 듣다 has a 받침. So 으세요. We add 으세요. But 드 meets vowel 으.
vowel 을.
So 드 becomes 르. 들으세요.
드 meets vowel and becomes 르. So we add 으세요 because there is 받침 드, but then 받침 드 changes to 르. And that's all there is to the irregular verbs ending in 받침 드.
받다, 받아요, 받았어요, 받고, 받지만, 받아서, 받으세요. 닫다, 닫아요, 닫았어요, 닫고, 닫지만, 닫아서, 닫으세요. 창문을 닫아요. 듣다, 들어요, 들었어요, 듣고, 듣지만, 들어서, 들으세요. 걷다, 걸어요, 걸었어요. 걷고, 걷지만, 걸어서, 걸으세요. 묻다, 물어요, 물었어요. 묻고, 묻지만, 물어서, 물으세요.
At the beginning, maybe this seems very confusing and very difficult to remember and to apply, but don't worry. The more familiar you get with everything in Korean, the easier it will be to apply concepts like this. There are only 9 videos on irregular verbs and adjectives. That's all there is. And once you get the hang of it a little bit, it will become automatic, even if it doesn't seem like it at first. For example, if you have 듣다, 들어요, 걸어요, 물어요. It's always the same. It sounds the same. And the more you study, the more you become familiar with Korean, the more automatic you will get a feeling and an intuition for how things are supposed to sound. Here's a side note.
걷다 means the action of walking.
The action of walking. So how do you express that you're walking somewhere in Korean?
We use 걸어서 가다.
걸어서 가다. We will learn also the also grammar in lesson number 64 of the Korean for Beginners playlist. This grammar also connects 2 verbs, in our case the movement of walking, to go, to show that the second action cannot happen without the first. The first action, walking, happens to get somewhere, to go somewhere, in our example.
So in this case, also is not because.
It's not because. In the Korean for Beginners playlist, there are 2 lessons, one for also as because, and one for also like it is used here. So they look the same, but they're different grammars.
Yes. 저는 학교에 걸어서 가요.
I walk to school. Because of the vowel also, the O vowel of also, the Batchim de of 걷다 becomes a R. So it becomes 걸어서 가요. And with this grammar, so can also be omitted. That would result in 걸어가요.
네,
걸어가요. I walk to school.
산티아고에 걸어서 가요.
So the movement of walking is performed and necessary to go somewhere. And side note number 2, another expression.
묻다.
묻다 is to ask. The verb to ask.
And the grammar 아어보다
보다 is to see, but 아어보다 is a grammar that we learn in lesson number 87 of Korean for Beginners, of the Beginners playlist.
It means
To try.
to try.
Together, 묻다 and 보다.
물어보다.
물어보다 is this verb, the verb to ask, together with the grammar to try. Together, it still means to ask,
Yes.
right? 저기요, 전화번호가 몇 번이에요?
제 전화번호를 물어봐요.
Again, the D changes for a R because of the 어보다. So 물어보다, 물어봐요
네.
is the present tense.
Yes. So 묻다, 물어요, 물어보다, 물어봐요.
And the meaning, if we would just use 묻다, 물어요, it means the same as 물어봐요.
Yeah, to ask.
To ask, but this is to try and ask. This is kind of like everyday Korean, how Koreans would actually speak.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.